All right, I believe we're live. So, today we're talking a little bit more about Little Rock, Arkansas. I tell you what, the fallout, we just made a video yesterday, and I can tell you the fallout's becoming rather big concerning them. As many of you know, there's a $30 million of money that they're unable to ascertain as what's going on and how that money was spent for the Little Rock Housing Authority, and this nonprofit they seem to be connected to with a board of directors. Now, I went into a lot of detail yesterday, but now what's happening is this is garnering national news, and the big players are now starting to step in. So I want to talk about some of the things that are the update for this. One thing we're looking at is they're going into receivership. There's almost no doubt to that at this point. So Little Rock Housing Authority, I know the city attorney predicts that pretty much they're going to go to receivership. I think at this point that there's probably insolvent or bankrupt with no money left, if little at all. In an email, Little Rock Mayor Frank Scott Jr. and the city directors on Thursday said that they believe the city's housing authority may soon be placed in a receivership, which would be limit the power of their officials and its operations. And also, when you look at this, we already have U.S. representatives that are looking into this. So one thing I'm looking at is the U.S. rep, French Hill, requests that the HUD secretary, which is Marissa Fudge, is now take oversight over Little Rock Housing Authority. That is literally the director of HUD. So it's now climbed to the highest echelons there. Also, Little Rock and the city are demanding that the housing authority sever its ties to that nonprofit. A lot of money's been funneled there. Again, we're not speaking of New York and LA, but 30 million in funds. We have situations where credit cards were used, cash traded hands, and a lot of money's been funneled to this particular organization with the board of directors. And so they want, and why a nonprofit is sucking all the money out of the Little Rock Housing Authority, nobody really seems to understand that relationship with that place. That shouldn't be happening. Also, going to the bank or ATMs and drawing out immense amounts of money, hundreds of thousands of dollars, cash trading hands without receipts. Now, I know that HUD has given 30 days to submit a proposed recovery plan for them, but there's really not much of a recovery plan when you pretty much bankrupt the housing authority. So their status at this point has reached the highest points of HUD and also the U.S. representatives. The county itself, Pulaski County, is now investigating them as fraud, waste, abuse, and likely there'll be indictments rolling at both the federal and state level on this. I can assure you this nonprofit, I think the outcome there with that nonprofit was there are already lawsuits rolling, so that nonprofit will probably be, I wouldn't be shocked if the feds don't storm the building, seize all of their assets, their bank accounts, indict whoever is, take it to the grand jury, and then of course everybody in the building will likely go before a federal judge. It looks like the county of Pulaski also, as the fallout's fallen out to their lower tier employees. They've already fired 3, and I imagine more are getting in there. Besides the fraud investigation, it looks like the Little Rock Housing Alliance, which is the nonprofit feeding off this housing authority, has now got a fraud investigation against them individually. And here's the amazing part. The nonprofit alliance there connected to the housing authority. It looks like at this point, nobody's even showing up to work anymore. So like roaches, we're dispersing and trying to get the hell out of town or whatever they're doing. But it doesn't look good when you have somebody that's taking millions of dollars from a housing authority, and then the day after national reporting, these people are disappearing. Some are being fired, others are being charged up with fraud and other things, and so it doesn't look good when people are absent like that, especially the staffers. So as the situation continues to climb, I think at this point the housing authority and that nonprofit will likely have all of its assets seized. Most of the people that are on the board of directors and management likely will be indicted for something, or at least criminally charged. And they're innocent until proven guilty. But when you're looking at $30 million, how it's spent, and there's just no reporting on that, it's a lot like just grabbing a company credit card and doing what you wish, as I mentioned before. Um, the very essence of what's playing out here is played out before, but not to this degree. It appears that they reached a critical line, and money has definitely traded hands, and a lot of money's been funneled out. And what we have now is a situation where there's complete loss of control altogether. We're no longer doing any reporting, and when you tell HUD to hit the road and you're not going to give over the information required, then there's little choice at this point but federal intervention. And so I'd imagine over the next 30 days, we're going to see some big moves. Likely Little Rock Housing Authority will no longer exist as the business that they are. And they will likely have a new city officials in there that are going to take over. Now, I know I used the word seize, but I think the reality of it is they're going to take over from there. The nonprofit is going to be defunct. Obviously, they've grabbed all that money, and they have a very limited window in which to prove they either have the money, or they don't, and so they are no longer to probably have any further contact with the housing authority. And so we're watching the collapse of two different systems per se. And I'd imagine as it's all plays out to its very end, what we're going to see is likely all that money is gone. They've already established that the Little Rock Housing Authority and that Alliance nonprofit that they've been funneling all that money into, likely those coffers are empty. And the bigger concern is there's a bank account, obviously, that hosts the money and financials for the 600 plus people that are on vouchers. So that money that funds those vouchers and subsidies, we're already able to see that they've dipped into that. We don't know to what degree. If the city official is already announcing that they're likely insolvent, it's likely that this housing authority and that alliance is already bankrupt. Most scams, when they run to the end until there's not a dollar left. And of course, that's when it blows up on national news because there's nothing left to steal. There's no enjoyment left from robbing the coffers blind. So now the scam falls apart, obviously, because they can't report anything to HUD. HUD wants that information, but they really can't report it because there's not really a great record of what was going on. And money's moving around in different directions. And now, of course, if they did that, then they would literally be indicting themselves to do so. This is a cautionary tale of housing authorities, mismanagement, fraud, at its best. It's in your face. And, Little Rock, Arkansas is not like a lot of our nation. This is a small state with probably half a million more in population. That's generally the population of most major cities or more. And so to decimate the most vulnerable people in the state of Arkansas and the funding they will require for their vouchers is a pretty egregious behavior. Not only that, but it may even be an enhanced crime because these people are disabled and seniors. But I think that the matter will be taken up in both Congress and the U.S. House of Representatives, depending on what Marissa Fudge and HUD do. And there'll need to be new barriers put into place to better regulate and audit these people. HUD to simply require that they report something and that they don't do it needs to come under penalty. They failed roughly 60% of the requested documentations and other things that HUD required or needed from them. And so they failed that. At this point, there's no choice but the city to seize the building and basically install their own employees until they can figure out who and where this money has gone and potentially charge those people for whatever crimes have been committed. But we still wait for that result. Well, guys, this is a sad situation to see play out. This is nobody can pretty much say at this point that didn't know what was going down there. Whether you're just a baseline employee answering phones, everybody that housing authority that had been functioning, including that alliance nonprofit that was funneling all that money out, none of them can claim amnesty to this. That's not a big building. Clearly, everybody knew that what was going on. And so I would imagine that nobody will be given a pass regarding this matter, and it will probably be very much investigated. Well, guys, that's all I really wanted to say about this. I do believe that in the end, HUD will probably fund the missing funds that were probably stolen or embezzled by employees and nonprofits, and likely help. So I don't think that people that are in the state of Arkansas or Little Rock area are necessarily going to be hung out to dry and not have money for their vouchers and other things. I think that there will be an intervention at the federal level by HUD and other agencies once they get this under control. So I don't think that anybody's going to be on the sidewalk. Um, and I think that there may, depending on how much properties and assets are left between the housing authority and also that of the Alliance nonprofit that was funneling the money and its board, they may be able to recover some of this and then suture that through other injections through the federal government. But again, it's a cautionary tale. I have told you guys for many years now that housing authorities don't act in a manner that many of you believe. And you believe that they're there to help and do things. But the reality of it is you have people in there that are not trained properly. And here's a housing authority that is submitting to a nonprofit. Now, how do we get in a situation where a nonprofit is basically taking over the whole thing, sucking all the money out of it? And I don't understand how we even arrived at that. How they even got involved in the daily operation and financials of a housing authority. That'd be like going down to Bob's church and then saying, "Hey, you know what? I run a car dealership. Bob, I'd like for your church, your nonprofit, to come over here and take over the absolute administration of the housing authority. And then let's hire a bunch of morons to answer phones and process casework. But we'll leave all the financials up to you until you bankrupt us." And that's kind of what's happened here. But I think that's a bit extreme in this nature, the way I said it. But I think that's what's all rolling and becoming apparent is basically this nonprofit has defrauded the housing authority, and the housing authority and its employees were in basically they were in cahoots, right? All right, guys. I'm going to wrap it up here. I just want to give those quick updates that at this point, the housing authority and the nonprofit will likely cease to exist, and the housing authority will likely be taken over by the city and the feds. And I guess they're going to have to correct this mess in order for people to be able to continue to utilize their vouchers throughout the Little Rock area. So it's a sad day in America when we have a nonprofit victimizing this many people. And I think there will be rather serious consequences for a lot of people that were involved in this fraud. And they'll get their day in court. So, all right. It was a pleasure talking with you guys, and we'll see you later.